Good evening, Natalia. Good evening. I wanted to talk with you with a very skilled and experienced practitioner in constellations and also a teacher in this area. What is a systemic constellation? Where you can apply them? Where are they needed the most? And who needs them the most? Just in your own words, who needs these systemic constellations? I think everyone needs systemic constellations because it's about living the life consciously. So we can understand why these events happen in our lives, why we are given some very hard conditions and illnesses and other symptoms. So we could look in our subconsciousness. Because for me, systemic constellations is not about solving the problem. And I would quote my teacher, Hunter B. Moon, here. He's from America, but he was invited to Germany, and one of the biggest psychotherapists. And also he's an expert in systemic constellations. Systemic constellation is a light, is a view on what's going on in reality. Because we're not ruled by what's in our heads, but we are ruled by what's in our subconsciousness. Like someone wants to give up drinking, but he cannot. And there are very few methods that can help him to do this. I'm not talking about coding someone, but I'm talking about when a person drinks and then he really stops drinking. Because we are ruled by subconsciousness. So the light that shows us what's really going on is the light from systemic constellation. For me, it's the light from the God, from the Saint Spirit. Maybe other people think differently. So practitioner in systemic constellation works with the system, and for me, it's the light that shows what the problem is really about. When a client can make a decision if he or she is going to do anything with it or not. And a constellator is just someone who helps. And we know that everything matters, even the position of your body. And I'm not a mother, not a father, not anyone, but just a helper. I'm always sitting to the left of the client, and I'm only helping. And I don't have the main role. The client has the main role. He's responsible for their life. He's responsible for his or her own life. And he's responsible for the result. And I'm responsible only for the process. This is very important. How we do systemic constellations? Well, I can describe it, but until someone sees it in reality, until they take part in it, I can talk about it for hours, but it's really hard to understand what's going on. And now another question. You have a huge experience in systemic constellations. You have clients from Europe, from Russia. What are the most common problems that people address when they come to the systemic constellator? You said that everyone needs it, but who really comes and with what problems do they come? So who comes? To me or my colleagues? Any problems within the family? With a child, with a husband, or with a wife? With mother, with father? So any relationship within the family. Symptoms, illnesses, psychiatric diseases. In Germany, I work only with a doctor, but if the client doesn't have a psychiatric disease officially, but I can feel it anyway. So if I see that I can help, I usually help. Because if you say I have official disease, I will invite my friend doctor and we will work together. But if I can help, I usually help. Also, people come with personal problems, like if a client says, I'm not okay with myself, I don't like myself, I feel guilty, and there are like problems, and sometimes there are problems that seem little, like I'm always late. There are accidents that's happening to me all the time. Other problems, they are from work, like I'm not paid well enough. They don't raise me, they don't give me more opportunities. I work more than anyone, but I get paid less than anyone. I don't like my profession, I don't like the field I'm working in. So any problems with self-esteem, personal fulfillment, and adequate reward for this? A lot of people come with problems with money. They don't like their salary, they don't like how money get through their hands, or some people, they don't know how to earn more. Other problems, they are about business. There are special business constellations, and it's very active in Germany. Like the biggest companies, like Mercedes-Benz, they come with problems of different kinds. Problems with human resources, business problems. Usually it's very secret. Companies, they don't like to disclose that. Maybe I've forgotten something, but these are the most usual problems, and we can work with any system. We also work with addictions. Usually addictions are a symptom, but we can say that addictions are a different topic. Sexual problems and usually systemic constellations are very good in solving these. I'm not talking about taking any pills, but if we talk about, well, any problems in those areas, systemic constellations are really good in solving this. I also got another type of problems recently, interpersonal problems or interpersonal problems. Different non-governmental organizations and the relationships inside these organizations. Also, systemic constellations, they help to choose between different options, like should I go here, should I go there. It's not about being curious, but it's about deciding, should I go here, should I choose this sphere to work or this. So any problems of choice, they're really good. So any problems of choice, systemic constellation can solve this too. Thank you. As far as I know, Natalia, you seem to be the only specialist in this area that can work online. Not just offline, but on a distance. How do you do that? Well, let me tell you a story about my first experience. I usually work offline. Well, Constellations is a group work, so we gather a group and then the client comes and tells his or her problem. And then we choose substitutors from the group on the most important roles for this person. They're not actors, and they stand like a mother and father, a teacher and maybe a younger brother. It doesn't matter. And then a very interesting phenomenon happens, which was confirmed by many scientific researchers, that these people, they start to act like they are the father and the mother. It's a scientific fact. I can tell more about that later. When I work online, it's not just about me and the client, and I think that in our group we have few people that work online too, because many women, they are good at feeling and understanding other person. So when I work with client online, usually it's just me and the client, and our constellations, they are in our imagination. What I do exclusively is I work in a group online. So I invite a few students, then I invite 2 substitutors to work here with me. So we work in a group with substitutors with me and the client online. I haven't heard of anyone working like me. So it's just me working like this, and that's what I teach. I never wanted to do that, but I got a client from Khanty-Mansiysk, and she said, I don't have any constellator within kilometers around me. So I've heard about you, and I've heard that you can work on a distance. And yes, I've mentioned on my website that I can work on a distance, but I meant that only with the clients that I've worked before, so we can polish the results. But here, for the first time, with a client I've never known before. But I said, let's try. So when I came to Moscow on a business trip, I invited one substitutor here to work with me, and we worked. And then she referred her 2 friends to work with me too, and she was very satisfied. And one of them, she came with the problem that she wanted to have a child, but she had so many problems with her health and systematic problems. But she really wanted to have a child, and she couldn't. And you can check out my website, there is a video testimonial from Victoria. And I can tell that she did that video just after the constellation, but last year in November she got a child. She got a daughter. Well, she didn't mention that in the testimonial, because when she was with a child, she never had time to do that. But that was just from one session with her. Online, a constellation online, it works longer and the work is harder. Usually client pays more for that. But sometimes results are even better than within the offline. I don't know why. Maybe a client is more motivated. Maybe a client gets more attention from me when I'm not distracted by a group. I don't know. But sometimes results online are even better than results from offline. Thank you, Natalia. We talked before how you teach systemic constellations. I think the topic is very interesting, and we will talk about that in further interviews. I just wanted to add one thing. If we talk about teaching, I want people who learn this to understand why we need it and who needs this. I can tell that the demand for a constellation online is very huge, and the demand is so huge I can't take them all. I can't take all the orders, so usually I give all the small orders or additional tasks to help to my students. And the demand is huge, especially in the areas where people don't find anyone within kilometers around them. And you also asked who can be the student of systemic constellations. So any person who speaks Russian in any part of the world. I had students from America. The only thing that I need that he or she understand Russian. I cannot teach this in German yet. Those people who want to learn this need to understand that this job is very hard and requires a lot of responsibility. But I've been teaching for a year now, and I can say that if a person is really attentive and understands why he or she needs that, I can give him very good results. And also a person needs to understand that there is a huge demand for this work, because online we can work with almost anything. And if we cannot work online, I usually tell a person to come offline. Sometimes I tell that. And usually German people, they don't need that because they can come to any part of their country on a train. And so they don't understand this. But all of my colleagues from German society, they say that we understand that you need that because Russia is a very big country. And also in other countries like American countries that are very huge. Or maybe there are countries that have no systemic constellators at all. I think that's the job of the future, the job of the next couple of centuries. And the demand will be huge. And I want to prepare as many students as I can so they can create their own schools. And at the moment, it's just the beginning.